And we are live. So, welcome to episode 138 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got the Ryan Daly scratching his head and saying, I scratched, therefore I am.
Wondering what this is all about.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell are we doing? So it's like that Talking Head song? How did I get here? Or
Yeah.
whatever.
This is not my
My
beautiful
beautiful wife.
house.
These sort of things. And then a little bit down and on the same side, we've got Morgan Scorpion, Miss Julia Morgan.
How'd you do?
Joining us from Stabbing London. So, she's barricaded in and ready to talk some Joker tonight. And we're very pleased to have her as part of our first, this is her first appearance in a film discussion. That's always cool.
Welcome.
And, definitely welcome to the show again. And we've got an oldie but a goodie. We've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here, and he's in an undisclosed location that he can safely get the signal out to the world from.
The less you know, the better.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it's going to stay that way. So please,
it's safer off the grid.
Indeed. So let's see. It's often the case that we love, especially certainly in a good story or a great story, that we love the bad guy. And often, you can turn on the news, whether it's in Stabbing London or in Shooting Chicago or, Suicide, Baghdad or, wherever it is, and you hear these horror stories every day, or you go through your social media feeds, because no matter how apolitical a person may aspire to be, unless you're living on a rock with no signal, you're going to get blips and blurbs and links and, whatever. And you see all these awful things happening all day, every day. And it can feel very overwhelming. But I think what happens a lot of the time is that you're just overexposed to it. It's not that crime may be necessarily escalating, although maybe it is. I'm not talking about, crime statistics, but the saturation. I'm talking, and you see these things all the time. And one of the questions that we've probably all asked at one time or another when we see, something happening, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday with the Boondock Saints. We talk about, what makes a person like that? That would do these awful things. Why is he like that? Why is she like that? Why are they like that? What events transpired in these people's lives to make them do these awful, terrible things that just shock us and, just leave you wondering, and I think that's what Ryan was saying, what the hell's going on here? So for a change, instead of the usual comic book fare, where, and no disrespect to Tim Burton, a man gets dropped into a vat of chemicals in 1989. 30 years later, comic book movies per se evolved to the point where someone created an actual character study of a serious character study that's grounded in reality. And just we watched the evolution of this character, which is a movie I didn't want to see because we had just come off 2008 and The Dark Knight. And I was like, why don't they just leave it alone? Nobody's going to top Heath Ledger. And I was wrong. And it's not often that I get on the show and say, I'd love to be wrong more often. I would love to be wrong more often. When I say something sucks, and if I'm wrong about it, I'd be happy to talk, because then I've got tons. This was great, and let's talk about it. Here, I heard they were going to make another Joker movie. I'm like, why are they doing this? I heard Joaquin Phoenix was being cast. I'm like, it makes no sense. I saw these clips on the news where he's exiting the subway, during the riots. And I'm just, this looks stupid. Why is he in that, clown, that red orange suit, it doesn't look. And was I ever wrong? And today I own a copy on Blu-ray of Todd Phillips' Joker. And if you're ready to go, we will, shall we?
Please do.
Everybody good?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Where do you want to start?
With this intro. So this movie subverts expectations, which is a term that's extremely overused nowadays, but in a really bold way. You've got a man, and like lots of people in life, he's living his life wearing a mask. And people wear masks in life, and maybe day to day and situationally you might do it because you don't want everybody to see what it is you're thinking, this, that, or the other. But a lot of people go through their entire lives doing that because for whatever reason, or they want people to see them a certain way, so on and so forth. Here, you've got this character, Arthur Fleck, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys in a second because I've been talking too much, who is very controlled. He's trying very hard to hold on to how awful his life is, whatever little piece of life that he has, he's trying to hold on to it. Through this mask, he's holding down a job. He's taking care of his mother. They live together. And that's about, he goes, to these social service sessions, where he can, have someone to talk to maybe once a week, it seems like, or something like that. But he's very much trying to, to hold on and, to keep a grip on things. But you start to see very early in the movie that the mask is slipping a little bit. And you're starting to see what's underneath. And so eventually we get to the point where the mask completely comes off, except that in the traditional sense where you think a person takes off their mask and moves into the light, this guy goes completely the other way into the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
What's underneath the mask is darkness, and it's fury, and it's pain, and it's all this hurt and helplessness. And that's what this character story sort of is about, this man who takes the mask off, and it's not for the better. So if somebody wants to take it from there, go right ahead.
I'll say this. I'm like you, Mike. I had no interest in this movie at all. When I heard about it, I knew that it was going to be like I don't know if alternate universe, alternate DC universe is the proper title. Nothing against Joaquin Phoenix. I didn't like the way he looked with the pictures and this and that. I watched the trailer, when it first came out to theaters. I still wasn't interested, so I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it when it first came to on demand, and I thought it was great, but I didn't know if that's because my expectations were so low. So I just watched it. I finished it last night after we were done with our episode, and it still holds up. In my opinion, it had nothing due to low expectations, because now, for the show, I was paying even closer attention to it.
Yeah.
And what me, I kind of like it when these villains, because he's not a good person, they have a little bit of sympathy given to them. Like, when we discussed, zombies, Halloween films, Michael Myers was a sympathetic character. And times Arthur is a sympathetic character. He's down on his luck. He is his mother's caregiver, which is a draining job to begin with, just to be a caregiver. His job sucks. He's got no respect, this and that. And then it just, like I said, the tension in this movie builds and builds and builds. And it's sometimes, in my opinion, it's kind of hard to catch a breath until that last finale when you let it out. And like I said, I'm still in awe of how much I enjoyed this movie when I initially did not want to see or have anything to do with it.
I I saw this in the theater with my dad. We just decided. I hadn't seen anything before it. I was just like, all right, a Joker movie. Again, I didn't know anything about it. Um, it's a very sad movie. My dad and I said the same thing after we watched it. We were like, this is a sad movie. It's just very, and oddly enough, I really don't picture him as, I mean, it's called Joker and they use the DC Gotham and all that stuff, but I see him as a completely separate character from, the established Jokers that have come before. Yeah, it's a character study. He clearly has mental problems. He clearly does not, there's no outlet for him. He has no help.
No.
He has that embarrassing condition where he laughs when he's nervous. Like that scene on the bus in the beginning where he's like trying to play with that kid and the mom gives him that weird look and he he just starts laughing kind of uncontrollably. You see the deterioration of this guy mentally. And it's not a pretty sight. And you wonder if a lot of this stuff was real or if it was in his head. I think the movie I think there's certain parts of the movie that are ambiguous like that. I was also worried when this came out, and after watching it, I was worried there were going to be copycats and stuff like that because of, the shooting in Colorado at Dark Knight Rises. I thought there was going to be another incident like that.
Well, there was. I mean, it was a year before the Summer of Love.
Yeah.
So we had an entire country full of riots who were rioting about class and privilege, and and so many cities were burning just a year later.
Yeah.
So it wasn't it just wasn't the type of copycat that you thought of.
Yeah, I think in terms of Jokers, you can't really place Joaquin Phoenix in there. Like, if I had to, I would put him number 2 because I still like Heath Ledger. He's still my favorite. But because he's a separate entity from the other Jokers, again, like I said, and I think my favorite scene for me, and then, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but
because I don't want to. Hold on. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that one scene for me where I really was like, dude, this dude's gone, is when he's painting his face and he paints his tongue. He paints his tongue white and he's just like, and it's just like, I'm like, dude, this dude's gone at that point.
Something's up in the very.
Eric, hold on. So I'm going to get Julia.
Sure.
Go ahead, Julia. Here.
Okay, right. Firstly, for me, the first sign that he was gone was when he takes a gun into a children's ward.
I forgot about that.
He was quite rightly dismissed from his job for that. Thank God it didn't go off when he dropped it. But anyway, I first saw a trailer for it, and I couldn't believe they were going with that shitty makeup. I didn't see the point of it until I actually saw the movie. Yeah. But it was Joaquin Phoenix, and I am a Joker fan even more than I'm a Batman fan. Starting with the TV series back in 1966. Painting over his mustache.
Cesar Romero. Yeah.
Yes. So I watched this film. About at least 6 months after it was released, and I was noticing all the moral panic that was going on about it, and this notion that one movie about one character somehow is going to influence all of society, or somehow stands in for every single disaffected loner who goes batshit and kills somebody. I did feel for Arthur right from the start. He has mental health problems. It's never stated that he's psychotic, but that's the one that I'd plump for as an amateur psychologist. He's on 7 different kinds of medication, and he's got a therapist who is about as warm and sympathetic as a slab of concrete. She is overworked. That is made clear. She is overworked. And so if you take a man with a serious medical condition like this and suddenly take away all his medication, of course he's going to go batshit. That's what happens. In the real world, most schizophrenics just get crazier and crazier till they get locked up. You know, most do not go on a killing spree by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, I'm getting lost now. No.
Well, go ahead.
Of course.
Well, what I was going to say is part of what you were saying, and I think what everybody was saying is the setting in the city is supposed to be Gotham. It's filmed in New York, and it was actually a lot of it was filmed in Jersey. It was filmed in Newark and Jersey City. But and the setting is approximately 1981. Okay, it's got the look and feel of about early 80s New York, which was a very scary place.
That's what I was wondering, because I got like a little bit of a 70s vibe from it.
So I think it was supposed to be late 70s, early 80s, something like that.
Todd Phillips said early one. There's a couple documentaries on this that I caught. So Phillips said early 1981. But there's this idea in the city, very much like what a lot of the filmmakers were experiencing, having lived through that period of time in New York City, that like the social contract was falling apart. You know, everybody was just kind of on their own. You know, the city was full of crime and corruption. And this was what New York City was like back then. And, you know, the police seemed helpless to stop anything. And they did have garbage strikes. So the cities were just filled up with, and it starts out where, you know, they start talking about day 18 of the garbage strike, and every day 10,000 pounds of garbage end up going out onto the sidewalks, and rats, you know, are just kind of everywhere. And so there was this sense that New York was slipping into like this mini dystopia, you know, and so you've just got all these people that are just falling through the cracks in society, and this man just happens to be one. And he's extremely isolated. You know, that's often the case with people who struggle with mental illness. You know, for one reason or another, they end up being extremely isolated. He takes care of his mother, but he can't talk to his mother. Right. You know, they're on completely different levels. He gets maybe, like you said, a once a week session with what I thought was more of a social worker than a therapist. You know, who's basically there just kind of to punch a ticket. Because I did a stint in adult-based mental health, and you have to check the people that are living out of the hospital have to check certain boxes to get their medications. So I got the impression that it was kind of like that. You know, that opening scene where they're talking about the garbage strike, and he's got his faces down, but he's sticking his fingers in his face to, like, you know, forcibly lift himself into a smile, but like the tear is coming down at the same time.
Exactly.
I found this guy, and especially, this is probably, I think it's my second time watching it. It might have been my third, but it's been a long time. I moved in here 2 years ago. This is the first time I took it out of the box, out of the wrapper. I found him to be extremely, I felt a great deal of sympathy for him. Because it's not that he's doing anything wrong.
Exactly.
He's not doing anything wrong. And it's just everybody is just either predatory with him or they just don't see him at all.
Yeah. That scene that is the perfect example at the beginning, where he's forcing himself to look happy. He's forcing himself so much that it's hurting him. Yeah. And like he's just an everyday Joe. Outside of, you know, the caregiving stuff with his mom, he is dressing up like a clown. He is taking whatever job he can, and he is just shit on by anyone. You know, when he gets his sign stolen by a bunch of punk kids, of all people, it's a bunch of punk kids that, you know, for the sake of the movie, start this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like he's got no respect from anyone. The only, like, even his colleagues, his coworkers, none of them respect him except for the little guy. You know what I mean? I don't remember his name, but he's the only one that even shows any bit of respect for him. So he's got no one. And like you said, he can't really communicate with his mom because of her condition. So it's like, you know, you go home, you have a bad day, you can talk to your wife or your spouse. You know, if your kids are old enough, you can talk to your kids. He has a bad day, he can't tell anybody.
No.
So he's all alone, and he's got to let it stew. You know what I mean? And that's why I said he's just so sympathetic from the beginning because, like you said, he does nothing wrong.
Yeah. He's done nothing wrong when they're mugging him. The dialogue from the kids, they realize, they hit him with the sign because it turns from a harassment thing, and then they really start to hurt him. They hit him with the sign, and the lead kid says, "Hey, this guy's weak. He can't do nothing." And that's just a perfect metaphor for like his character throughout the whole thing as he slips off into just complete insanity and, eventually nihilism. And it's a mess. It's a tragedy, in a sense. It's a fascinating film. It's very bold. The writing, the performances, it's really, really good stuff.
It's also very, it's a very, yeah. No, I was going to say for me, I thought it was kind of a chilling movie. I mean, just what happens. And I've only seen it that once in the movie theater. It's one of those movies where like, I've seen it once and it was like, I have to step back from it and I'll revisit it maybe in a couple years or something like that. 'Cause it's just too much. Like, it's a lot. And it's just like, you're just like, oh my gosh, it's one of those movies where you're just like, man, I need to like take a shower afterward. I mean, because just the way it unfolds and everything.
It's not light and bright.
Definitely
It's not
is
campy.
It definitely is a character study, like you were saying.
Well, it's not light and bright. It's not a campy movie. It's not an action movie.
No.
It's not any of those things, and for that reason, it's probably one of the best, or if you want to consider it, a comic book movies ever made.
Yeah, that's what I don't consider it. Like I said, it's not to me. It's not, and this isn't a bad thing. It's not the Joker. You know what I mean? It's called Joker, and it has Bruce. It has the Waynes and all that stuff in it.
It's loosely based on Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, which is an origin story and a tragedy in itself.
But I think it could stand alone even without being called Joker. I mean, I think it could just stand alone as a movie that examines someone with mental health and goes on a downward spiral and stuff like that. Instead of attaching, the Batman stuff to it. I think it would work on its own,
Sure.
That's all very well, but I personally wouldn't have watched it if it wasn't quote unquote.
Well, no, I understand that. Yeah.
To just watch a movie about some poor guy having a mental breakdown is not the sort of thing I would want to watch. Whereas, I have to come clean here that I enjoyed it. When he broke free and started killing people. I loved the shooting of the 3 men in the subway. I absolutely loved it when he was in the back of the police car watching the riots. I was thinking that when he shot Murray on the TV show, on the cameras, I thought, I wanted him to say, that's showbiz, but he didn't. So there's a little bit of a disappointment there. This might sound, well, I guess I am taking it rather trivially in some way. Because after the tragedy, after the suffering, he gets his release. He gets his glory. Yeah. In some ways, that's a happy ending.
It's definitely a happy ending for him.
Well, I mean, because that's the end resolution. He removes the mask and he becomes who he really is. Which is not, necessarily about, like some sort of Jeffrey Dahmer. So it's very similar to what we were talking about yesterday. He's targeting people that are just awful. Those men aboard the train are fucking
and they work
awful.
for Wayne. They work for Wayne Enterprises.
That was so bold what they did with the Waynes.
Yeah, that they made the Waynes out to be
Thomas Wayne is the problem, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's the problem.
Yeah.
I also find it really interesting when he talks about the cowards who are hiding behind a mask. And I'm thinking, your son's going to spend most of his life hiding behind a mask. Do you think he heard you?
Yeah. And, Thomas Wayne, I loved the portrayal of the Waynes as these pompous, aloof, sort of, dismissive people. Thomas Wayne's definitely got this Messiah complex.
Oh yeah, big
I'm
time.
I'm their last chance.
Yeah.
The previous incarnations of Thomas Wayne, like he's just pure empathy, and all good things. There's this bold, strong person who just wants to give and give and get. And this guy isn't like that at all. He's a jerk off.
No.
I mean, it's a hell of a thing.
Well, he represents the real uber rich elitist, guys who are completely disconnected with the world around him. He doesn't live in the filth.
No, he lives in an ivory tower.
It's like those rich guys who lived on Long Island, and they didn't have to set foot in the sludge of New York City in the 80s.
Yeah.
So he's gonna look down on him. I mean, he's gonna look down his nose at him.
He's got his mom. They sit there together and they watch the Murray Franklin show, with De Niro. And I thought De Niro was an interesting choice of casting as just sort of like a talk show host. He's like a Letterman or a Johnny Carson, kind of character. And you never really think about it, but he is kind of a dick because he just kind of pokes at people all the time and he makes fun of them. And like we laugh along, you never stop to think about the person that the joke is being, who's being laughed at.
That's how I thought about it. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say what's interesting about De Niro's casting. Part of the reason why they cast him is because of the King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. Obviously, the Joker is basically like the next Travis Bickle, or if Travis Bickle had gone even further. I mean, so that's kind of why they cast him in that movie, because this Joker was kind of like the character from King of Comedy and Travis Bickle kind of blended together. So,
Yeah, the thing with De Niro as Murray in this, it's like you said, he's kind of a dick because even when they're like, you have like, Leno and Conan and everybody, Letterman, they all take shots at people, but there is a little bit of levity to it, tongue in cheek. Murray was going below the belt. He had no sympathy, and I think it worked because De Niro always kind of has that smug look on his face, no matter what. So that helped you dislike this character because he is a total douchebag up until the very end scene when he finds out what's going on. He has no sympathy for Arthur, and you realize that he doesn't care about Arthur being on the show, like in the dressing room scene and stuff like that. So I think De Niro helped you dislike Murray a lot more, in my opinion.
Well, throughout the movie, there's just an absolute lack of empathy from everyone. There's zero empathy that's being, nobody for a split second, is thinking about the other person. And the only person who seems to notice that is Arthur. The only person who seems to recognize, like he starts up with that psychiatrist. He's like, is it just me, or the social worker? Is it just me, or is it getting crazier out there? And like he actually can see that this is happening, but everybody's either too overworked or just doesn't give a shit. You start to feel a bit of relief for him because we introduce him to the Sophie character, who's just, his neighbor. And, it seems like, they hit it off a little bit. And you just like the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh man, okay. He's going to have some sort of romantic interest, because she's really beautiful. And,
is she really there, or is she part of his? It's left ambiguous. Is she a real person, or is she just made up in his head?
Yeah.
I think she's a real person that he saw once in the elevator in the opening scene.
and created this.
And the rest of it is just his delusion.
Yeah. Well, there is that reveal, when he's in her apartment, there is that reveal, because she's like, how did you get in here, and this and that. And then, kind of like, how M. Night Shyamalan does like his endings, we get to see the scenes where they were together, but then you find out she wasn't there, type of thing. So I thought that got me the first time. I
Yeah.
did
Let
not
me ask
expect
you
that at
this.
all.
Let me ask you this: do you think he killed her?
No,
No.
not at
I
all.
don't think he did, but
No.
it's because you just see him leaving her apartment.
Yeah,
But it's
he's
left
I think
like-
he's very embarrassed, and he just kind of walks out. There's
Okay.
nothing in this that says it's not like the Dark Knight where he's blowing up hospitals.
Well, yeah, I know
This
that,
person is no, but I mean, this person is selectively targeting people that are just horrible.
And a way to think about it is when he takes out, his coworker, but he leaves the little guy alive. He says, "You were always nice to me."
Yeah,
She never did anything to Arthur. Why would he do
That's
anything
true.
to her?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah, he left the nice people alone. Yeah.
yeah. Now we also have this douchebag character Randall, who after Arthur gets jumped, hands him a gun in a brown paper bag full of bullets. And then, as Julia said, he's performing a skit. And, he's wrong to do it, but I understand now why he's carrying a gun. These 6 kids almost beat him to death for no reason.
Right.
And you can see here, his shoulder where they've just been kicking him and kicking him and kicking him. And, this guy, he can't catch a break. And the gun slips out in the middle of a performance in the middle of a children's hospital. And they got to let him go.
He plays it off as a joke because he looks at the kid. He does the shh, noise.
Yeah. But then Randall lies and says that, what does he say exactly?
He says that Arthur asked to buy a gun from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he completely lies and throws Arthur under the bus. The boss says, "You're a fuck up, Arthur. You're a liar. You're fired." And it's somewhere around this point, I can't remember exactly, where you see him start to kick the garbage. So you can see this fury is starting to, is really starting to build up inside of him.
Yeah, because I think isn't he in a phone booth and he smashes the glass.
No,
of the phone booth.
you're thinking of Goodfellas here. I think you're thinking of Robert De Niro in Goodfellas.
I don't think he smashed up the phone booth. Did he?
There's a scene where Arthur's talking on the phone in a phone booth, and then suddenly you see the glass has a big shattering effect on it.
He probably headbutted it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
He was
I've just watched that film and I don't remember that.
Now you got a reason to go back.
Yeah, you gotta watch it again.
Reasons to go back.
It's not a movie to watch for fun.
No,
but
it's not.
It's a fucking phenomenal movie. But it's unrelentingly bleak.
Yes.
Until the very end, where it starts to, action, starts to occur, because the action here is sort of interspersed, as he slips a little bit further, and then slips a little bit, every now and again something happens. And that brings us to the subway murders. And I thought it was just so fucking great that they portrayed these Wayne Enterprise employees as these scumbags.
Yeah.
Harassing a
These
woman.
drunken scumbags harassing a woman on, a subway in the middle of the night, trying to come on to her, then throwing French fries at her. And, one thing leads to another. And then they start to target him. And and then again, he's down on the ground getting the shit kicked out of him, except this time he has Randall's gun and he fucking murders them. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of siding with Julia. I mean, I don't,
The first one was self-defense.
Yeah.
The first one was self-defense, and probably the second one. The third one was a murder.
Yeah.
But great fun to watch.
I didn't know that I cared. Yeah, I didn't know that I cared. I mean, we watched the Boondock Saints yesterday, which is replete with murders. And this is a much more serious tone, but they're awful. They're just awful.
Well, yeah, it's those guys deserved it. I wouldn't necessarily say that Murray Franklin deserved it, because these guys were way worse than him.
Yeah.
I mean, these
but
guys
he had slipped much further by then.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, I think like Julie was saying, the first two, I think were self-defense. The third one, I think he just enjoyed it when he
chased that guy. He chased that guy down and got him on the steps and just fired like 4 rounds into him as he's, on on the subway steps to get to the street.
Yeah, because the thing is, he shot the third guy. He shot in the leg, and then he followed an injured man to take him down. So
now, what happens after that is that he goes into the bathroom, and then it proceeds to become this sort of artistic dance scene, which could appear to be a very hokey thing. But the revelation for me was that he's able to find expression for himself through violence.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to say it.
That's finally out how he is able to get people to see him.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's finally how he's able to be heard.
No longer invisible.
Yeah, that guy, those three guys saw him.
Yeah.
But they didn't see him. They saw,
They saw him.
You see what I mean?
They saw. I disagree a little bit. I think they saw. He finally takes off. That's where the first time he takes off the mask. And this is the real him. This angry, hurt person who wants to get back at these people who have been, mad as hell. He's, I hate to make that statement, but he's mad as hell and he's not going to take it anymore. And you're going to recognize who I am before this is over with. Before that, he had just been some freak that they saw on the train that they were going to make fun of and beat up. And he realizes if he lets that guy live, he's a Wayne Enterprise employee. None of it is going to turn out the way that, truthfully.
Right.
So he just kills him. And that's the first time we see what's really underneath the mask.
Can we move on to that dance scene?
Yeah, go right ahead. Talk.
Can I be I know I'm not the only person who thought that it was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was great.
It was an absolutely amazing scene. Why he didn't get an Oscar, life's not fair, is it? But that is
he did win the Oscar, though.
He did?
Yeah, he won the Oscar. Yeah. He was Best Actor.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
I don't watch the Oscars anymore, but yeah, he did win. Yeah.
He won the Academy Award for Best Actor for that. There's no comparison. Who is going to run against
justice.
him?
There is.
How do you like that?
He
though?
did.
Two people.
2020.
Two people won that award for playing the same character.
Yeah,
because Heath Ledger won,
and none of them were Jared Leto.
One thing I want to kind of piggyback what Julia said. The dance is beautiful. I love all of these dance sequences he does because they're all different. Like the one here in the men's room after he kills the guys. He's just so calm and collected. It's like a ballet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a ballet. Ballets are they're looked at as beautiful after he just killed 3 people. And then, of course, there's that iconic scene on the stairs where he's coming off. I don't know, is it Gary Glitter song or whatever? Yeah. He's coming off, and they play that at basketball games to pump you up. That's his way of pumping himself up because he doesn't hear the music, but the way he is, he's thrusting his hips and he's punching the air and flicking the cigarette and kicking the air and stuff like that. It's the way Joaquin just does these certain movements with no dialogue. Is beautiful and scary at the same time because what's going on inside his head.
I was just going to say, he's the first Joker of all the actors who've played this part throughout the decades. This is the first Joker I was scared of, that he has that menace about him, that he radiates that menace and that just scariness. No other Jokers have ever done that for me. I mean, it just, and again, it's in the performance, and I'm not knocking anybody else's Joker performances, but because all the other Jokers were always played, even if they were played serious, there was a little bit of humor to them. Heath Ledger's Joker had a little humor to him. I'm not going to go near Jared Leto's Joker because I don't consider him a but anyway, I mean, even Nicholson, who was the more comic book leaning Joker, had menace to him, but he was still silly. You know, he still had
He
some
was Jack
jokiness
Nicholson.
about him.
He's still
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, no matter who he is.
This Joker, like I said, this first one, I was actually like scared of this guy. You know, especially like you were saying, where he's throwing the cigarette, because you know he's going on that TV show just to murder Murray. He's not, you know.
I didn't know that. I'll be honest with you. The first time I saw that, I had no clue that he was going.
I
thought he was going to kill himself.
Happen.
Yeah,
yes.
I knew
something was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to be that. And I remember I was stunned.
Yeah, I was
like,
too, but I could
watch?
feel the tension. You could feel the tension in that
it was
scene.
the climax of the film. Yeah, I mean that's the film's climax.
Yeah,
I thought he was going to be killed, but yeah, it was.
I thought he was going to kill himself because right before he goes on stage, he leans back in the chair and he puts the gun under his chin.
I thought I thought he was going to do it on live TV. Yeah, was going to shoot himself.
Julia, I hear a little.
Well, there is a theory, I'll just sort of float it by you, that when he mimed shooting himself, went back on the sofa, which is incredibly convincing, by the way. What if he really did pull the trigger? What if he really did pull the trigger and everything else is him hallucinating whilst in a coma?
It would have been an interesting twist. Yeah.
See, I was wondering, like, because if you think about it, if you got to pay attention, I was wondering, like, this is another theory that I at least haven't seen out there yet, is in the very beginning when he's talking to the social worker, there's a brief clip of him in a padded room, and he's looking he's looking at the window.
Yes,
what if this whole film is inside his head? That's
I never dug any of the 4D chess theories. I think that this is just a straightforward story. I think he had been hospitalized.
Okay.
That's interesting though, Eric, that you bring that up, because there was just that one quick scene of him in the
his head in the window. Yeah, and I think, because I just saw this and I don't remember it line by line, but the social worker was asking something about hospitalization.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was the lead into that scene.
Okay.
But he said, I've got in notes here. He said, it's here. He said, I just don't want to feel so bad anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I saw
he said something about feeling better when he was in the hospital.
Yeah, he did say something about that. Yeah, he goes, staying in the hospital was better.
Okay.
And there's this whole thing where, you know, he talks about the worst thing about mental illness is that people want you to act like you don't have it.
Yeah. I think that's a true statement.
I think that's a true statement. Yeah, people just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, and so they want you to.
Yeah, they'll get annoyed at you. You get annoyed at them and just get out of my face. And there's no like, hey, what can I do to help you or anything like. I think yes, this movie is a total like this would be good for a psychology class or something like that. Like because it's a total study on mental illness. I think.
Yeah, and Todd Phillips said he wasn't trying to make a political statement. He literally was just trying to make a character study about how.
Yeah.
That a person like this could be born.
Yeah.
You know, and not Arthur Fleck, but the Joker, who later in life would become this other thing, you know, but how did that come to pass? You know, and this person that historically has not had an origin story.
Right.
That's the terrifying thing about the Joker in The Dark Knight. The Summer of Crime started talking about The Dark Knight. You know, and we have Nolan said, you know, he wanted him to be like Jaws. You know, the shark just shows up. There's no reason why that shark is there. It's just there and it starts biting people.
I think even in his original appearance back in the 40s, I don't think Bob Kane ever came up with an origin for him.
There is no origin story
because even the Joker himself has, you know, he's told the story. He's like, you know, this is what happened to me. Or maybe it was this, because he says, I prefer my, I mean, he didn't say the word there you go. Julia got it. I prefer it to be multiple choice.
Well, and it's Yeah, they based this on the Alan Moore one, which did have the backstory of him being this comedian,
stand-up comic.
and,
Yeah,
and all that stuff. Yeah,
And
yeah. I
if you
think he
think
runs
about it,
afoul of the mob in that or something.
yeah.
yeah,
And if you think about it, kind of like with the Killing Joke, there's that line in the Killing Joke. All it takes is, for one person to have a really bad day.
yeah.
That's what this movie is.
Here we
You
are.
know what
It's
I mean?
day after. It's day after
I think
day.
he's had a bit more than a bad day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and the funny thing is that the one person that he is the caretaker of is also severely mentally ill.
yes.
Yeah.
And how about
His mother is practically a shut-in.
Mhm.
yeah?
Like
Well,
she
and then
doesn't
how
leave.
about
She
that?
stays on the couch and then goes to bed.
And then how about that? What was it? Correct me if I'm wrong here, but wasn't there that? Didn't it come out that he was like Thomas Wayne's
Adopted?
illegitimate kid?
No, that's well. Thomas Wayne could be lying about it when he says he had nothing
Oh,
to
that's
do
right.
with his mother.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
But I think the important point is Arthur thinks that he's
Yeah,
Thomas
that's right.
Wayne's
Yeah,
illegitimate child. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that scene between him and the young Bruce
and
Wayne.
Bruce. Yeah, yeah,
It's that, if you remember, Arthur's going mental with Alfred's got him by the throat and is,
yeah.
and then he looks at Bruce Wayne
Mhm.
and stops and runs away.
Mhm.
Because in Arthur's head, Bruce
That's
Wayne
cool.
is his little brother.
His
Yeah.
half
Yeah.
brother,
Yeah.
his half brother.
And see, that's again, that's what I like about this movie, because it is open up to interpretation. Because, like Julia said, what if Thomas Wayne is just lying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's not a good
Oh,
person.
yes.
He could have had an affair with his wife, one time thing, knocked up, Arthur's mom. This happened, hush money, whatever you want to say. But then you also realize Arthur's mom is very mentally unstable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been, a victim of, abusive relationships. She's taken, trauma to the head and all this stuff. So she is not all mentally there either. So is she telling the truth and Thomas is lying, or is she confused?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This was the one 4D chess route that I was willing to consider.
Okay.
Which was that Thomas Wayne is a douchebag.
Mm-hmm.
And he very well could have had an affair with one of his maids.
Yeah.
Gotten her pregnant.
Yeah.
And then just railroaded her into a psyche. I could totally see that Thomas Wayne doing that. Railroading the woman into a psychiatric hospital. She keeps saying, well, he's the father. And so, hey, she's psychotic and she's got narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah.
She's her own worst enemy. She's not going to recant. And the more she says it, the stronger my case is because I'm Thomas Wayne.
And the thing is, Gotham's a dirty, dirty city. He's got plenty of funds to make people say what he wants to say as well, too.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, even Alfred comes off as an asshole.
Yeah, Alfred.
You know?
It's funny when he manhandles him. That was actually funny. I laughed.
It's not that. It's the snickering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's just had to get. Like he could never be your father.
He's a butler who works for this affluent rich family. He would be like that.
There's
he would be the classic snobby butler.
Right, but he would be. But there's no interpretation that we've seen. Whether it was what was the guy in the Burton films?
Michael Goff.
Michael Goff, yeah.
Or Michael Caine, or Jeremy Irons,
even Sean Pertwee.
Yeah, Sean
Pertwee.
Pertwee. They were all
closer to Sean Pertwee's performance than anybody else's, I think.
Yeah. I like Sean Pertwee as Alfred.
We love Sean on the show.
Gotham. Yeah, he was cool. But
we're Sean Pertwee fans here.
Yeah, but that was a good scene when he and how they just, it's that arrogance of who is this beggar coming to the gate. That's kind of what it was.
To be fair, a stranger starts trying to befriend a young boy.
Yeah, that's true too.
I'd be bloody hostile. I'd be out there with a baseball bat. What
He's got his fingers in his mouth.
I thought,
and that's where I thought,
blame Alfred for being upset.
Very true.
Yeah, and I thought that kind of, and that's where I thought it almost verged into like creepy, like pedophile territory there. And I was like, what is he doing? Like, it's just the way he was.
I didn't think it was that because I clearly at that point, an hour into the movie, understood what it was that he was doing. You know, he wanted him to smile. You know, which is this thing that it's like this thing that he just has repeating in his head. You know, always smile, always smile, always smile. You know, that kind of thing. So I didn't think, but the image of having his fingers in his mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
It did cross a line, you know, and you're just like, ooh, that is kind of icky. But I didn't think it was like with any sort of sexual thing, you know.
Right, and that's the whole Bruce Wayne stuff. That's the only time I ever agreed with Thomas is when Thomas punched Arthur in the bathroom, and he say, "You come near my son, I'll fucking kill you." That's the only time you saw him, air quotes, in a good light because he was looking after his boy.
Which was about 3 seconds.
Exactly.
He gets about 3 seconds of decent publicity, you know, in this film.
Yeah, because he's still calling, you know, Arthur's mom crazy and this and that.
Yeah, I mean, what he does to him in the bathroom is just so awful.
Yes.
You know, he's just like ripping the skin off of him, you know, tell him that his mother is this. And he's like, how can you say this? This is my mother, you know, don't, and to this person he's just met. So, I mean, the person who thinks that, you know, they're the savior for the city is actually, you know, the absolute worst.
And I think
zero empathy.
That's the mask. That's the mask that Thomas wears, though.
Yeah.
You know, he was wearing this mask of a good guy when he's really a douchebag, sleazeball.
Yeah.
I think if Thomas Wayne had not gotten shot by the random guy, I think Joker would have come after him next.
Maybe.
It's possible, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, then we get to. I mean, there's some great shots in this. Just like when he goes to, he goes into the refrigerator.
Oh, that's so unnerving.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're just because I think that his mother's had a stroke.
Yes.
Because now the police are on his ass. You know, so, and then Randall's lied, and completely, tried to cover his own ass, and he's thrown him under the bus again. And he's just, it's just further isolation, and what small structures he does have in his life are just being taken away, and he's just going into free fall.
The use of
go ahead.
I was just saying the use of color in this movie too, like the scene with the refrigerator. He's at home, mom, she's in the hospital, so he's got no reason to have the lights on. You only have those little, shines of blue and very little yellow, just so we can see Arthur, on screen. But you can tell that he has no reason to have any lights. He's now in darkness, and that it makes it more chilling to me. You know what I mean? Because it's there's brightness to it, but it's not the right type of brightness. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And
the colors of blue and the colors of blue and yellow predominate throughout this film, though.
Yeah.
There's so much so that I started actively looking out for other colors. Is there any red? Is there any green? Didn't see them very often.
They did an excellent job with the CGI here. In their portrayal, it was what CGI is supposed to be.
Where do they use CGI?
In the city. They added tons of buildings where
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. There's two.
That's when CGI works, when you don't notice it's there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And we've gone back and said this before in Forrest Gump. When Rob Zombie saw Forrest Gump, he said, "Who the hell did Zemeckis find who can act with no legs?"
Yep.
He's like, "Who the hell?" Because he didn't know who Gary Sinise was at that point. And he's like, he's in the theater. He's like, this guy with no legs can really fucking act, and that's what CGI in its in its purest form is supposed to be. And they did it here with these cities. Adding the graffiti to the walls to make it look more dingy. Adding buildings to make adding strings of buildings to make the city look more cramped.
I guess they also could have hired people in the art department to make the graffiti, but cut.
Yeah, but
a
it's
lot of
just
money.
easier for computer generated, and then you got to take it down.
Yeah,
and all these different things where you just have some some video overlays, and I saw it when they did it, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't notice. I didn't notice. So I mean, this idea that either Thomas Wayne is his father or his mother is narcissist who's obsessed with Thomas Wayne
Mm-hmm.
comes to a boil. And I
Yeah.
guess after getting punched in the face by Thomas Wayne, he decides to
Now,
believe what Thomas has said. Go ahead.
if you think about it, so Arthur fantasizes about having a girlfriend, which he doesn't have. He
Mm-hmm.
fantasizes about being made a big fuss of by Murray
Right.
Mhm.
on public television, which also didn't happen.
Well,
So it seems quite reasonable that his mother would fantasize about having a relationship with a wealthy employer, which
Mhm.
didn't happen.
yeah.
That possibly, even though there is a statement somewhere in the line that she adopted him,
Mhm.
there's a lot of similarities there.
Well,
Mhm.
when he steals the hospital records, there's a certificate of adoption
Yes,
in her
I didn't spot that.
file.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
when I first saw it, a friend of mine, and I haven't talked to him in a long time, told me that did you see there's a handwriting similarity or something going on in there? And I think he was implying that Thomas Wayne, this was a cover up on the Waynes. And his mother clearly has gone crazy. His mother has gone crazy over 30 or 40, because you're not exactly sure how old Arthur is. You know, he's still got some youth in his face, but he looks much older. You know, he looks worn down. And they said
yes,
that
a hard life will do that to you.
he dropped from 180 to 125 to play this role. And he refused to do anything. Like, they're like, do you want a dietitian? They said, do you want a dietitian? You know, we can, because they're like, it's June. We got to start shooting in September. You know, we can bring somebody in here. You know, it's not a problem. He's like, no, I got it. He ate one apple a day.
Yep.
Between June and September, and dropped 55 pounds.
I'm surprised he didn't get really sick doing that.
I'm sure he had some sort of Overwatch or but he didn't.
Yeah.
You know,
Robert De Niro did something similar in Raging Bull. Bulked up and then lost it all. So
he was another actor who was famous for body transformations.
Yeah,
he was like
a
predecessor to Christian Bale.
Christian Bale did it too.
Christian Bale, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah, for The Machinist.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he went from 180 to 125 pounds.
Wow.
On one apple a day. So I guess he decides that Thomas Wayne is telling the truth, and he murders his own mother.
Yeah.
And I think that once that's the point of no return.
Right.
That, that was at matricide. That's the point where, there's no coming back for this person. They're in with both feet and now up to their waists. And that's all that there is. And then he gets a visit from Randall and Gary.
Yeah.
And Randall, it's so sleazy. The Randall character, you really can't underestimate how sleazy Randall is. They come there under the pretense of offering condolence for the death of his mother. But what Randall really wants is to find out what he said to the police.
Right, because if you remember when Arthur was cleaning out his locker and everything, he pointed out, he said, I got, why are you picking on me? I got the gun from Randall. Hey, I still owe you money for that, and everything. And again, that's where it starts. He says, "Oh, I forgot to punch out." He literally punches the time clock off of it. So me too. And then he's walking down. It says something like,
"Don't forget to smile."
Don't forget to smile. And then he spray paints it and it says, "Don't smile." So he definitely, Randall is definitely
reminiscent of the Hell Here scene in the Batman Returns.
Yep, with Catwoman. Yep.
I also love that. Yes.
There is. He doesn't say he owes her money. He goes, I still owe you for that.
Okay, that's what he says. Yep.
And that's a much more menacing statement under these circumstances.
Yeah.
There's some foreshadowing there. And he just proceeds to take out a knife and fucking murder Randall in his apartment. And
I thought he killed him with scissors.
it's scissors or some sort of pocket knife or something.
Yeah,
I think he
yeah.
had a
Whatever it
knife.
is.
Oh,
Yeah, I
was it
thought
a
it
knife?
was a knife too. Yeah, he had it in
Okay.
his pocket. And this is the scene right where you're talking about, where he's painting his face and paints his tongue.
Yeah, yeah.
And he only has the white paint on because he's
Yeah.
got the confirmation that he's going on the Murray Franklin show.
Mm-hmm.
And the white with the contrast of the blood
Yes.
Yeah.
on his face, and you're like, wow, that's just
so
great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
scary and beautiful at the same time, in my opinion.
Oh
Because
yes.
I've always said
Yeah.
I'm a color guy. I love the use of colors and just that red. And it's not it's not gore. It's just a spritz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
Like
very
you could have taken a
simple.
brush and just went. Shh.
Exactly,
Yeah.
very simple. And he sits there and he just revels in it for a while before he lets the other guy out. And it's such a sad scene and kind of funny because you have that little bit of a levity that because the guy he lets survive, he's a dwarf, he can't reach the hook and eye or whatever you would call it, and he says, you've always treated me well. He says like, all right, now skedaddle, something like that. He's beat it. So
I remember seeing that in the theater, and I remember that was the scene that got the biggest laughs because up until that moment, it was so bleak.
you needed
Yeah.
it.
I think there's just that one release valve that they give you, for like 10 seconds, which is Gary can't reach the lock.
I
Yeah,
thought he
And
was.
people just,
It's
I
not
thought he was
just
going to kill him.
Did you?
Like, I thought he was going to kill him because the
did
the
I.
tension of that scene. He had just killed Randall, and I thought
I'm
he
so
was just
glad
gonna,
he didn't.
Mhm.
I'm so glad he didn't.
Oh yeah.
I would have
I'm glad
found
he
that
didn't.
harder to watch than the murder of his mother.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, because Gary was always like, he even said, I heard about you. I'm sorry about how you got fired and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just the fact that Gary couldn't reach the chain. He just kind of, he slumps his shoulders and looks, and he turns and he says, Arthur, could you get that for me? Or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And then
And
Arthur, Arthur is just kind of like, he sighs, and then he gets up and does it.
and
Well, if you
it
think
wasn't
about it
that.
too,
Go ahead.
Gary is also I hate to use the word freak, but
Mhm.
he is also somebody who's different, probably shunned by society and
Mhm.
ignored because he's a little person. And you never know, maybe Arthur can relate to him on that respect, and that's why he's nice to him too. I mean,
There was, because it wasn't like Gary and Arthur were hanging out,
no, no.
but Gary just treated him like a human being,
Yeah.
and he may have been
Gary-
the only person. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Julia.
Gary might be physically very different to look at,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but he's a normal person. He's a normal
exactly.
human being, as
Mhm.
you and I would see it. Just
Yeah.
short.
Yeah. But now now we're in, the whirlwind.
Mhm.
He's murdered his mother. He's murdered Randall. Whatever he's going to do on the Murray Franklin show. And this is where the movie starts to flip a little bit. Because you're right. You get the Gary Glitter scene.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Which has maybe the term I would use for this movie is operatic. I've used that with a few other movies before. It definitely has that overly extravagant kind of thing going, interspersed with these,
Mhm.
like where he's twisting the shoe,
Mhm.
in that scene with the overlay there. I feel like the shoe half the time when I'm watching this movie because it's just so damn bleak. And then it'll go where he'll, do something and, with the dance, and you're just like, this is fucking magnificent.
Yep.
And we get to the train, and we get to Gary Glitter, and things start to, you're like, okay, this is picking, this train's picking up speed here.
Mhm.
We're moving towards something, and the cops.
Yes, because you see him, he's dancing. We hear the song, and then suddenly the music disappears, and
Right.
he's still thrusting his hips and pumping the air. And if you look closely behind him, you see two shadowy figures.
Yeah.
You gotta pay attention to look, and then we get the close up of the two detectives, but they're already there while he's still fucking dancing. And it's again, that's what was smart about what Todd Phillips did is he took that music away, so we saw what the cops saw.
Who
This
had just
crazy
happened-
bastard
Yeah.
just dancing to no music. He's not talking to anybody down this long flight of stairs.
Because, people were like, okay, I'm like, I can't believe I'm fucking listening to Gary Glitter, but okay, no problem. And,
But it
I
worked.
haven't heard. Yeah, it did. It totally worked.
Mhm.
And then you see the look on the cop's face, like, what the fuck is this guy doing down there? And then they start chasing him. And, we should say we're getting Summer of Love type feels here, in Gotham, because now the riots have been recurring. And, when he went to meet Thomas Wayne, there was a big protest with violence and, all these different things.
People wearing clown masks.
Yeah, because people are celebrating the murder of these assholes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a street level sympathy, or congratulatory kind of thing. I remember
Anybody
when we
else
covered
reminded of V for Vendetta, the movie, when they watched that scene?
Mm-hmm. A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
I like V for Vendetta.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie.
Too.
I remember I thought a little bit of that movie Hell or High Water, which we talked about for a second, but I covered it with Sydney a couple of months ago. It's a Western with Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges and Ben Foster. And they rob banks.
Mm-hmm.
They're robbing banks to get enough money to pay off this reverse mortgage. It's a long story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a serious movie, though. And Jeff Bridges is one of the Texas Rangers who's investigating them, and they go across the street to this diner because it's all happening in West Texas, which is this place that is kind of falling apart as the banks are buying everything now. And this guy is just sort of chuckling in the diner, this old man, and he's like, "What's so funny, old timer?" And he looks at Jeff Bridges, and Jeff Bridges, and the guy goes, "I've been watching that bank rob people for 30 years. It's just kind of funny now to see somebody going in there robbing the bank." And they don't want to help the Texas Rangers at all because the robbers are like heroes. They hate the banks. So there is this undercurrent of class thing going on in the movie, and he goes on the Murray Franklin show, and when he goes out, on the stage, and Murray tries to talk to him, he's just got that faraway look in his eyes.
Well, even
he
before
doesn't
that,
answer the first couple of questions.
well, think about this. Remember, we talked about the dancing when he's doing that little ballet dance. He's doing that behind the curtains.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He's getting himself in the mood, for lack of a better way.
Character.
Yeah. And he comes out, he's smoking that cigarette. You know what I mean? He's Joe Cool.
He does the spins on the stage.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the way he comes out is very energetic. Murray's like, "Oh shit, this guy's going to be a hit."
And you can tell something's definitely up because just the way he looks at Murray behind, backstage, and he says, "Can you introduce me as Joker?" The way Joaquin kind of sneers at him, you know what I mean? You can't really see it under the makeup, but he's got a little bit of a sneer mixed with a smile. Like he's like, "Yeah, you caused this." He's looking at Murray like that. In my opinion, he's like, "You helped cause this, and I'm gonna end it."
And it's a fascinating thing that people like Murray cause these things and never even stop to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could see, like Murray would never think that in any way he held any responsibility for anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fantastic script.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic script.
I felt I couldn't help but feel for the other guests on the show.
Oh, she's like a little sex doctor, like a Dr. Ruth type of
Dr. Sarah, something like that.
He comes out and he just plants one on her, both hands on the sides of the face, just plants ones on her.
When he kills Murray, I thought he was just going to kill them too, just for the hell of it, because he's on live TV, so why not?
Mm-hmm.
But I just
would have changed the whole.
Changed his narrative.
It would have changed the whole movie if he had done that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It would have changed the whole movie if he had done that. If he had just started randomly targeting people, that would have completely taken away from any sort of sympathy or empathy that you would have had.
Well, I don't know. Do you think at that point he's beyond that?
No.
No?
No. I mean, I don't. Murray didn't deserve to die.
No.
But you understand why he did it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Murray didn't deserve. you don't deserve to die for making some jokes as a talk show host.
Yeah, he was an asshole. He was an asshole.
He was an asshole. He was an asshole who just, all these people that live in, in ivory towers, they have no idea what's going on down on the street, and, he just poked the wrong bear.
And that's another good reason why we had De Niro is because, he is this, this persona, this, this cocky, shit talker on camera. But when Arthur finally admits to killing the guys on the subway, the personality in De Niro changes a lot too. You know what I mean? He knows you're crazy, and this and that. He's not this happy-go-lucky, persona in front of each other. So it shows that he knows that Arthur is dangerous.
He does, but he also probably goes about it in the worst possible way.
He still kind of antagonizes him.
Well, he's like, you just sound so much self-pity, and you're just like, like even Murray. Well, not even Murray, because Murray never had any empathy to begin with. But that's part of what gets him killed. Because he tells him, he goes, "You just brought me on." He goes, "You're awful. You just brought me on this show to make fun of me."
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. You can come on and be on national television, and maybe that'll boost your brand. If you're not a serial killer,
right?
But I'm going to make fun of you. So it's it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, he does bring him on there just something's on. Okay, he does bring him on there. It's not Jeff Goldblum. David Hedison. Who was it? David Hedison was the fly.
Yeah.
Help me, Jesus, not that thing. Big rock, Julia comes.
If he does it again, he's going to bloody need some help.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
I think that whatever Murray had said on the show probably wouldn't have changed a damn thing. He was dead the moment Arthur decided he was going to kill him.
Oh yeah.
Once Arthur got that phone call to be a guest, he knew what he was going to do.
See, I disagree. I think he may have gone on. Yeah, I think he may have gone on there to kill himself, and then he made a. Hold on. There's a scene. There's a part in that scene where I forget what Murray says to him. He goes, "Not everyone is awful," and then you see he made him mad. He got angry. And you could see like the fury in his face. Because other than that, it was just sort of this aloof sort of skit. And, I don't care about, I'm tired of pretending that, I should feel bad about what happened to these people that worked at Wayne Enterprises. And he tells him, he's like, people are crying about these guys because they work for Thomas Wade. He goes, if I was dying in the street, you would walk right over me.
Right.
It's like, how are these people better than me? So he's making his case, and then Murray says the one thing he probably shouldn't have said, at least in my opinion, not everyone is awful. And that's what he got really furious when he said that. He goes, "You're awful." And I think that's what put the nail in Murray's coffin.
Yeah.
And he just, I honestly didn't expect that. I sat in that movie theater and I was stunned. I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
Well, I was stunned. I thought originally he was going to kill himself. Then after he killed Murray, I thought then he was going to shoot himself. After that would have been it. But.
And then he gets, and there's this thing where after he does the first shot, he just lays back in the chair. And I noticed this, at least in my experience, it was the only time he ever actually gave a real laugh.
Yeah.
Well, he chuckles at the very, very end, like his last line when he says, when he's thinking of that joke, you wouldn't get it. He chuckles a little bit too.
Well,
but he's in a different mind frame.
That's the first time it's happened.
Okay, yeah, first time, absolutely.
Because he's doing that, cognitive injury kind of laugh thing the whole movie, and then for the first time, like he just lets it all out, and he just, he's relaxed. Even though his leg is shaking, he's a little nervous, but he's finally gotten out what he's wanted to get out and say and do now, for so long, and admitted to killing all these people. And there's no need to hold on to control anymore. And he gives this sort of relaxed laugh, which is the only time up until that point, that he does it. And then he gets up and does the dance, and he shoots Murray again, and he grabs the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut him off, and you're just like, this is fucking fantastic.
And you know what I love following that is he's easily arrested. There's no fight. There's no resistance. There's nothing.
Yeah.
He's easily, you don't see it, but the next time we see him, he's in the back of the squad car, and you just got the car driving in all this chaos, and there's not much music or anything. I think it's just you hear the riots.
There's a Cream song. The White Room.
There is a piece of
Oh,
music in the
that's
White
right.
Room. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I love how he obviously, you can tell, you assume he willingly went with the police when they came and got him.
Yeah, that's what Gotham is burning.
Mm-hmm.
Gotham is burning, and he's gotten what he wants. But the story's not. That's what I love about this movie. The story's still not over yet. He's still not done becoming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and the cops are arguing with him. He's like, "Yeah, it's great. You know, what's the problem? I know. You know, it's all your fault." He's like, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Isn't
he's
it
enjoying
beautiful?
it.
welcome to my world.
Yep.
You know, you know, it's just great. And then they get T-boned
By the ambulance. Yep.
by the ambulance, and all those, you know, your Antifa types, you know, that are out there rioting. A couple of them recognize him.
Yeah, because the chaos doesn't stop, because they get T-boned, and then you have this taxi cab that drives up and over and spins out, and you still have all the explosions and the gas, and all this stuff behind them, and then after like maybe 30 seconds later, then we see the people get out of the ambulance and they're looking inside the busted up windshield, and then they kind of point to him, and then they pull him out slowly. Arthur's busted up. We see the dead cops, and then they pull him out and they just put him on the hood of another car, I believe it is, or maybe it's on the police car itself. I don't remember.
I thought it was on the police car, but I could be wrong.
I think they put him on a car. I think it was a police car.
Oh.
But think about it this way. Everybody is celebrating or sympathizing with the people, whoever killed this Thomas Wayne employee, triplets, asshole triplets. Okay. Then, and they hate Thomas Wayne. Then this guy goes on national television in the outfit that they say he killed these people in, confesses to the whole thing. It gives his whole, it's not a manifesto, but you know what I'm saying. He says exactly what's on his mind, finally. And then he shoots Murray Franklin, like on national television. For the people that are out there protesting, this is a celebration. This is a celebration. And so they're just out there, burning the city. And that's how Thomas Wayne gets his.
Yes.
And I loved how Thomas Wayne is like, what was he watching? Like the marquee was like
Zorro the Gay
Blade, and I think Blowout.
Because in the comics, they did see Zorro the Gay Blade as a family the night that they were murdered. So that's what that was.
Because I remember when they did Batman vs. Superman, they turned it into Excalibur. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was Thomas Wayne for the brief 2 minutes that he's in it, because he gets shot right in the very beginning, and they're watching Excalibur. So I just thought they're just seeing some ridiculous movie while the city is burning.
Yeah, that was a nod to the comics back in the 40s.
Yeah,
that's what the Waynes were seeing.
Okay, so I didn't know that. Okay, so I just figured that the city is burning. Hey, let's go watch a comedy. We're the Waynes.
Yeah, let's go see Zorro. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go have a couple of laughs while the whole place is burning down, and they both get it.
And I loved how it was just a random, I guess you'd say, Joker supporter that did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you had the nods.
You
had the nods. You had to have the pearls and everything. Because the comic book fans expect that. But I just liked how it was very random. It was very brief.
Yeah, it wasn't Joe Chill or anybody.
Yeah, and then we were done. We were back to we were back to the Arthur situation.
And unknowingly, they've started something that one person has started something that he has no idea.
Right.
He started a whole other thing. So like in a way, two people are born on the same night. with a huge disparity in age, but disparity or gap. But then he's not done yet because he wakes up on the car. And like this movie just keeps going and going and going and going. And you're like, holy, and it's just, and then, he starts performing on the car. And I love the score, that cello score that they have going.
Did you notice before he stood up that they were cheering him?
Yeah.
To get up. Yeah. They were cheering him on to stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and he starts to perform, but he's got his back to them. And then he realizes his mouth is bleeding.
His nose is bleeding.
And he just does the thing where he turns the blood into the smile.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit.
That's unnerving right there.
Yeah.
When he does that.
Because what we had seen from Heath Ledger was scars.
Yeah.
And so the scars were awful. I mean, but the way that he kept telling the story, he kept changing the story. You want to know how I got these scars, and you never got a straight story. It was always a different story. Here, I mean, it's a smile that's in blood. And you're just like, holy shit.
And when Arthur does it, you can tell he's happy.
Yeah.
For once, he's finally happy.
Yeah.
He's finally able to naturally get that smile that he was forcing himself to have in the very first scene we saw him in.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he turns around and the whole fucking audience just erupts.
He finally got what he wanted at the comedy club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The standing ovation.
Yeah.
I did find it funny. I noticed, we'll go back to when he was at the comedy club. There's these little nods. The comedy club is called Pogo. And Pogo is what Gacy was called when he dressed up as the clowns for the kids' hospital.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, when John Wayne Gacy would paint up like the clown to the children's hospital, he was Pogo the clown. And the nightclub was called Pogo. You just see it in the background. It's just one of those things.
Jeez.
Which it's a little on the nose, but still
not exactly. I don't think a lot of people. I'd think probably 8 out of 10 people.
I wouldn't have known that.
at
Yeah.
all. Yeah. I just watched it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's why you bring me here, Mike.
That's exactly. Yeah. That's it. So I mean, and then we end up back at Arkham.
And he kills the therapist.
Yeah.
Because he walks out with blood on his shoes.
Because there's no point.
Yeah.
There's no point to having a therapist we're past that. Like that therapist is like so late to the game, so far beyond the point where they're going to be of any use. And you just I walked out of the theater, said, what the fuck did I just watch? That was fantastic and beyond. Like I said at the very beginning, I was so glad to be wrong.
Yeah.
So was I.
So glad to be wrong.
And they end it to send in the clowns, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And I love how it literally, you don't expect it. It has the end. Like you don't expect it, to see the title card or the ending card of the end. And it's done in that 1930s old timey like MGM type of font. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
As they're singing "Send in the Clowns," you see that fancy the end as Arthur is being chased by orderlies in the background. If you pay attention,
yeah.
Now, I mean, into every life a little rain must fall.
They were singing "Send in the Clowns," the 3 men on the tube, the subway.
Yeah. No, it was That's Life, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's Life.
Maybe it was That's Life. Yeah. I don't remember.
The end, I think
hold on. If you'll hold on a second, I've still got it open in the window.
Now, while Julia's setting that up, as I was saying, into every life a little rain must fall.
Here we go.
It looks like we're getting a sequel.
With Lady
musical
Gaga.
yet.
I would love. I have nothing against Lady Gaga. I heard she's a good actress. I didn't see A Star Is Born, but I heard it was really good. Like people who wouldn't typically watch it, they're like, yeah, I saw it. It was okay. It was good. She was all right.
I like her. I liked her in
She's a good singer.
her American Horror Story season. She played the vampire queen or whatever you call it. She's in like season 5 or 6. It's called Hotel. She's pretty good.
We had this discussion before, though. We don't need a sequel to this movie. It was fine as a one-off. Like, just leave it that way because it's going to.
Here's the thing, though.
I'm going to watch it.
It made $1 billion.
Right.
Okay.
It made $1 billion. So
use $1 billion.
That's like
the DCU.
That's like wishing for a unicorn. A movie that makes $1 billion, don't make a sequel. Like,
right.
It ain't gonna happen. It's entirely possible you could have an Aliens kind of thing, or a T1 or a T2 kind of thing going on here. We got Todd Phillips, but James Cameron didn't make a fucking Terminator 2 musical. Arnold and Sarah are like dancing together. Robert Patrick's moonwalking across the screen.
Here's the thing, though. We won't really know how much of a musical, air quotes, it is until we actually see the finished product. Is it just one scene? Maybe maybe it's a scene inside Arthur's head. We don't really know. I don't see it being an actual musical.
If it's a musical, I don't see it as being one skit.
Right. Well, that's what I'm wondering if it truly is going to be a musical per se.
Unless it's going to be like a Sweeney Todd thing where they're singing as they're killing people.
Yes.
But I don't know.
Sweeney Todd, that is a musical that works as a horror movie, as a crime movie, as a drama.
I mean, if they're going in that direction,
with that kind of energy, it could be amazing.
Yeah.
It could be amazing.
I don't know.
I'm going to watch it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. I was wrong before. Being wrong twice, it's possible.
I'll put it this way. I don't think I'm going to see that one in the theater. I'll wait.
No, I won't wait. I won't. I didn't see the other. I saw the other one in the theater, and I'll go.
I always wait for the DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be in the theaters for this one. So, was there any point that someone failed to address that you'd like to cover here in the film? Was there anything that?
Me personally, no. It's just, again, I gotta state, like you, Mike. I was a man who wanted nothing to do with it. I wasn't interested. So when I first saw it, I thought maybe I really enjoyed it because my expectations were so low. When I did this rewatch, last night and the night before to finish, it still held up, and I think I might have enjoyed it more this time.
Yeah. It's a fantastic, it's a magnificent film,
and it's
cinema.
This is from the guy who did the Hangover movies. You know what I mean? Of all things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick on a guy who made the Hangover movies. You know what I mean?
I like the Hangover.
Yeah, they have their place too, but it's like you go from that type of comedy to this. It's a big fucking jump.
Yeah. Well, he was up
kudos
for it.
to him for making it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very. I mean, the some of the best. I mean, look at James Mangold. Not in terms of comedic directing, but I mean in terms of Logan.
Yep.
Yeah.
This ultra bleak. Story that is not happy at all, and it's probably the best comic book movie of all time. I rate Logan higher than I rate The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
and it's
and
like
he has. Well, he also did 310 to Yuma.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a lot, and he's known for killing off his characters, and he's doing the new Indiana Jones movie, which could go either way. If he's directing it, I trust him. But I mean, he might end up killing Indy at the end, which would be fine with me. I mean, if it's done the right way.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other discussion because then I'd have to start to talk about what was it, The Force Awakens, and watching Solo getting killed, and I'm just like, fuck, because I was happy I wanted to see Han Solo again, and I was like, fuck, what just happened?
But it's funny you brought up Logan. Logan with Mangold, and then Joker with Phillips. These aren't comic book movies. they're just great dramas with comic book characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the part where we rate the film. Let's do it round robin. So Ryan, Julia, and then Eric. So Julia, for your first time on here, we have a system 0 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
We have half points that are allowed. So you can 0 is, I want to stick my hand on a hot stove to think about something other than this movie. You can go to half, you can go to 1, 1.5, all the way to 5, which is that this is a perfect film, by your own criteria. So we're going to go with Ryan, then Julia, and then Eric, and then myself.
Okay.
I'm curious though with that. Before I give my rating, I don't think anybody has ever rated a movie on here like 1 star or 1.5 or anything like that.
I gave one to Prey.
Oh, okay.
The new Predator movie. I gave it 1 star.
Well, that's the first one. All right, I'm giving this.
That was one too many.
Yeah, I'm giving this one a solid 5. It's again, it was. I went into it just kind of curious more than anything else, because I wanted to see primarily how Joaquin Phoenix would measure up to Heath Ledger. Because as I said before, Heath Ledger is still the measuring stick for the Joker, even to this day. And as I said, what Joaquin Phoenix did was a totally different type of character, which I liked. And it was a good movie. As I said, it was a very sad movie. So, yeah, nothing. Straight 5 for me.
Yeah. Julia?
A 5.
5.
Definitely a 5.
5. Okay. Anything you want to add about it, or just 5 and I'm good?
Well, I want to add that it has some of the best lines ever written for a villain. But the one that superlative stands out above all, I've written it down to make sure I get it right. I used to think my life was a tragedy. Now I realize it's a fucking comedy.
And he says that when he's smothering his mother.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you laugh?
No.
No, me neither.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Eric?
Dude, I'd be lying if I didn't give it a 5. Especially because like I said, my second time viewing, I didn't have the low expectations and I enjoyed it a lot more this time. Beginning to end, fantastic performances, whether you like the characters or not,
Yeah.
It was good. Whoever played
Yeah.
Thomas Wayne was perfect for this role. I knew it was originally going to be Alec Baldwin, I think. But who they had this time, I thought was great. Even the mom, we didn't talk about her very much. We didn't talk about the air quotes girlfriend. They were good too in the way they were used.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that build up, like you feel uncomfortable. You don't know where this movie's going to go. Yeah. And then finally, when you get to Gary Glitter, you're starting to fist pump too, because shit's gonna hit the fan, and you're at the top of the roller coaster. You know what I mean? And you're ready to go down. Yeah. I can't think of one honestly negative thing to say of this movie.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 5. I'm going with 5.
Is this your first 5, Mike?
Maybe. I'm notoriously stingy with my ratings and with my praise. Mm-hmm. This is cinema. This is the destination. This is what you want. And I say all the time, give me a fucking story. Characterization. Character is king. That's what we have here. Mm-hmm. Everybody you've turned the entire world on its head. And given this fantastic origin story. Frances Conroy, who plays the mother. We didn't talk about her at all. She's always great. She was great 20 years ago in 6 Feet Under, the HBO series.
She's, we mentioned
Lady Gaga. She was in American Horror Story. She was in American Horror Story. She plays Death.
Yeah, she's in a lot of seasons of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
She's a very unappreciated actor in a parallel universe. She's probably a leading lady like everywhere. Here, Ira can recall getting about 30 years. It's like what we said about Fred Ward. when Fred Ward died. We got decades of great character work. I just sat here and talked 2 minutes ago about a man who smothered his own mother, and I have complete sympathy for him. I do. It's not even a question. He's murdering, killing people here, stabbing people here, and yet I'm completely in his corner.
Well, she did chain him to a radiator.
But I mean, all those people, whether it's Randall or the three, I mean, he's probably he kills the three people on the train. He kills Randall. He smothers his mother, so he kills about 6, and then he kills Murray. So he's killed about a half a dozen people over the course of the movie. And I feel complete sympathy for him. And ironically, I feel little to no sympathy for anybody. The only person I feel a little sympathy for is Frances Conroy as his mother, because she's terribly mentally ill as well.
Yeah.
It
is a sweet relationship. I mean, she has a nickname. She never calls him Arthur. She always calls him Happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like I said, it spins even the pulling the mask off expectation, because he doesn't shift into the light. He goes all the way in the other direction. And becomes, maybe the greatest comic book villain of all time, or one of the greatest villains of all time. An extremely, and like Ryan said, an extremely difficult role to take on after Heath Ledger's performance. But I'm going to disagree with Ryan by saying that this guy sets the standard now for what the Joker is. As much as I love, and we started this whole Summer of Crime talking about The Dark Knight. We spent 2.5 hours doing it. But I think this guy has reset the bar, which won't be met again unless it's him, or again, another 10 or 15 years down the road, where somebody takes something like this and does it, because it's a character study. You're right; it's not a comic book movie. But this is as good as it gets in my book. So 5 stars. All right. I think this is as good a place as any to bring this to a close. My thanks to the Ryan Daly for stopping in to talk about some Todd Phillips.
Thank you.
From Morgan Scorpion, who's in a safe location in Stabby, London, to talk about this very disturbing movie. And to Eric from Hey Internet, Eric here.
Pleasure.
Julia, is there anything you want to plug on your channel? Tell people where they can find you. What have you got coming up?
Well, I've got a YouTube channel. I record horror stories and ghost stories. I've recently started doing a few ASMR recordings, which people seem to like. So I'll be doing a few more of those. I'd like to, if I may, just name check the actor who plays Gary. That is Lee Gill, an actual English actor. So I want to give him a plug, if I may.
Okay.
Well, I've already done it, so.
Okay, if I may.
The English way.
You're still resentful about Valley Forge, so we're,
About what?
Never mind.
What? Who? Valley what?
The George, I'm talking about 17.
He's making a Revolutionary War joke.
Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding me? We're glad to see the back of you.
I
had an English friend in college. He's from East London, and somebody made a Revolutionary War joke, and he goes, it doesn't matter. We'll just come here and take all your jobs and fuck all your women. I'm like, okay.
I don't know if it was Julia that was on here. Maybe it was during our first interview, or maybe it was somebody else. But I will remember in the era of George W. Bush, who struggled for articulation, to be kind.
Putting it lightly.
Yes, that's but let's err on the side of generosity for once on this show. And we're like, oh yeah, this guy he's struggling here. Not as well, never mind. But the point that I'm making is Tony Blair came to America once because they were friends and frenemies, or much to the British people's consternation. And he was just so fucking eloquent. It was like an ASMR session. You're like, fuck, this guy can actually speak. And he had that accent going, and it didn't even make a difference what he was saying. We were so tired of listening to George Bush trying to stammer through, my pet duck, and then we've got someone here who could actually fucking speak. I'm like, fuck, man, can we trade, whatever? What the fuck? All right, so
he's for sale.
Which one, Tony or
Tony
George?
Blair.
Probably
Give him
both.
enough money, he'll come and do the job for you.
Maybe I can get him to do an intro or something. I have a GoFundMe.
Yeah, there you go. That would be cool.
Like that. I get Tony Blair to do my GoFundMe.
Very distinguished and sophisticated opening.
Yeah, do it classy, but make it horror. And I'm sure he can figure it out. So, all right. Yeah. Eric, do you got anything you want to plug?
After this conversation, I'll just say, just Google, "Hey Internet, Eric here." You can find me on all social media platforms. I'll just keep it simple tonight.
All right, and nothing. We got to get you some new content to cover. I got to make some more recommends.
Yeah, well, I
haven't had anything after 47 meters.
Yep, you've been batting 1,000 so far.
Yeah, every single recommendation. So, and Julia has been helping me a lot by turning me on to a lot of titles. Julia has completely changed my mind about my opinion of horror and its current state, and that horror doesn't necessarily suck nowadays. It's just Hollywood. There's a lot of good horror coming out of Europe. There's a lot. I mean, I'm not talking about just like England and France. I mean, like, there's a lot of good horror just coming out of Europe in general.
Spain, Ireland,
Spain,
South America.
South America and Asia. There's a lot of great horror, and she's been turning me on to different titles. So, Hollywood is completely creatively bankrupt. But horror itself seems to be doing okay. It's just, people aren't paying attention to it. So. All right. For me, this will be it for the week. We're finished. Next week, we have a tentative schedule. It looks like we're going to be covering the sci-fi classic that I love this movie. Based on the P.D. James novel, Children of Men, with Clive Owen and Michael Caine and Julianne Moore and a shitload of other people that are just in it. And it's just a great fucking dystopian story. I like it a lot. And then I think, Eric, we're going to be connecting again with Rod for the new Candyman.
I believe so. I think that's what we thought.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the new Candyman yet. Rod initially wanted me to do that, and I said, well, let me get to the other one first.
Yes, you have to watch the original.
Yeah, and I love that Clive Barker Candyman. It's just so fucking great. I've heard mixed things about this one, but I'm going to check it out. I'm going to
good, original better.
Okay, that's fair.
My opinion.
All right, we're gonna do that next week, and we just haven't sorted out the times yet. So we haven't sorted out the times and the whens and the wherevers. So that's it for us for tonight. Thanks to everybody for stopping in the chat, and I guess we'll see you all next week. This is the end. This is the end of the summer. Labor Day weekend is upon us. Yeah. And so this is the final episode of the Summer of Crime. We got to almost everything. We didn't get to Payback, unfortunately, and we didn't get to The King of New York. But damn near everything else we got to. Well, everything else we did get to. And it'll be nice to get back to some horror and to some sci-fi after having about 8 or 10 weeks off.
It was a nice. I'll say this: it was a nice break, and I did kind of tweet it out. Promoting tonight's show. It was kind of cool how we started the summer in Gotham and we ended the summer in Gotham too.
Yeah, it works. It works. Yeah. All right, that's it for us. Good night, everybody.
That's
Peace.
life.
That's life.